Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Nothing Personal. In our country, police officers don't have to pay for certain medical scans and are generally treated with high respect at hospitals. Mr. S has been an ambulance driver at our local hospital for over 20 years. Occasionally, he also served as a personal driver for the hospital director. One day, while driving his boss's car on an urgent matter, Mr. S was stopped by a cop he recognized from the hospital. Despite Mr. S's attempt to explain the situation and avoid trouble with his boss, the cop issued him a $40 speeding ticket, saying, "Nothing personal, I'm only collecting money for my government." Later that day, Mr. S was reprimanded by the hospital director for the speeding ticket. However, the director also assured him that he had his back if Mr. S planned any sort of retaliation. A couple of days later, Mr. S was walking through the hospital when he spotted the same cop standing in front of the billing director's office. Curious, he inquired about the cop's business and learned that the cop was trying to register his mother's chest scan under his own name to avoid the bill. Essentially, he was asking for a favor. Mr. S saw an opportunity. He asked the billing manager to hand over the cop's paperwork, offering to register the scan as a favor. Taking the papers, Mr. S registered the scan for the full price of $280. He then returned to the cop and handed him the bill. The cop was shocked and asked what had happened. Mr. S, with a smile, replied, "Nothing personal. I'm only collecting money for my government." The next story is called Cutting Hours. I work for one of the big auto parts stores. This week the top brass have been crying cut hours, like their life was on the line. We barely have enough staff to run as it is. But today was a different scenario entirely. I got told to cut more hours. Managers cannot go to lunch or leave our store without having another manager to take their place. I cut the hours of 3 non-management employees and gave a few hours to someone who has been out of the country for family affairs. We had no layover between these hours, but that does not matter. Basically ended up with net 0 hours between cutting and adding, but they wanted me to go farther. I cut my own hours. We were scheduled for 2 managers, for about 4.5 hours just us. I called in the next non-management employee 2.5 hours early. I left at 2:30. Managers cannot take lunch if there is not a relief manager. So we had me who worked 8 hours, no lunch, a manager who will work for 9.5 hours, no lunch, and a non-management employee who will work 7.5 hours, no lunch. We get a pity stipend for food if we cannot leave the store for our lunch as well. So even though we cut hours, it costs the company far more than keeping one extra person to be a layover. I'm sure I will hear about it when I get back, but I was just following orders, which I have in writing. The third story is called Meat Lover. I was working at a pizza place years ago when a gentleman came in to order carry out. We had a special going on, 1 topping large pizzas. He was a bit loud, not mean, exactly, just very forceful, and didn't like it when anyone talked except him. He had this way of waiting for a question, then loudly answering it halfway through. "Okay, and what? Meat lovers. And this large." And so on. So I got the order. And so did everyone in a 3-mile radius. Our 3 large meat lovers pizzas. I don't think he was deaf. He seemed to hear me just fine. But it seemed like he could not stand it if anyone else said more than 3 words. And the pan crust with no pork. Now that was a bit of an issue. The meat lovers came with pepperoni, pork sausage, Italian sausage, beef, ham and bacon. I thought perhaps he meant specifically he wanted to leave off the pork sausage, but it was hard to tell when I was unable to form an entire sentence. Eventually, after half the windows in the place had shattered, it became clear that he wanted no pork products on his pizzas at all. So that left beef. Everything else on it is pork, apart from the cheese and sauce. I attempted to explain this. No pork. he mentioned once or twice. Okay then, I tried to tell him the price difference, but my head started to hurt. So he paid for 3 meat lovers, which cost a lot more than 1 topping pizzas, and they came with beef on them. Basically burger pellets. I left any further explanation up to my manager, who had heard the commotion from his home 3 states away. The next story is called Just Answer. Years back, I had a temp job at the reception of a hospital. The concept of the hospital was that external doctors could book rooms for surgery and for their patients after surgery if they had something bigger to do that they couldn't do in their own medical practice. There was also a sleep laboratory run by an external practice where patients stayed overnight for their measurements. For that, usually the technician and the patients started coming in at around 7 PM and they all left at 6 AM. Usually anything besides the measurements during sleep were done in the medical practice, which was in walking distance in the same street. On one random day, somewhere way before 7 PM, where usually nobody is in the sleep laboratory, this nice woman comes in and asks about the way to the sleep laboratory. I'm pretty sure that she's at the wrong location, and I explained that to her. I asked her to take a seat nearby and to give me a moment so I can check with the practice where she needs to go. She thanks me and takes a seat. While I'm still typing the number of the practice, this awful woman enters. She asks the same questions as the nice woman. I try to explain the situation, same as before, but she aggressively interrupts me and slams something along the lines of, "It can't be so hard to answer a simple question. Tell me where the sleep laboratory is. Now," in my face. I smile and tell her the way. She walks off. I called the practice and they told me that, as I expected, nobody is at the hospital that day and that every patient should go to the practice and that they all should also know that, because it's on their note with the date and time for the appointment. I inform the nice woman and she gets going to the practice, probably still in time for her appointment. The awful woman comes back after around 15 minutes and tells me that nobody is there. I just shrug and go back to my work. The last story is called Pretend It's Full. Many decades ago, when I was a student enrolled in driving school, the instructor told me to pretend the lot is full and park the car. It was very early in the morning, so the shopping mall lot where we were practicing parking was empty. I knew that the pretend it's full part was meant to emphasize the importance of driving slowly and cautiously and centering the car between the lines. But my teenage brain couldn't resist the obvious opportunity. I slowly drove up and down the lanes and around that lot for at least 5 minutes before the instructor finally got flustered and barked, "What are you waiting for? Park the car. You told me to pretend the lot is full." I give the instructor full props for accepting the humor of the moment as I watched him shake his head, while his expression morphed from anger through realization and into a smiling instruction to just park the car. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.